welcome Rosie Lee Hooks.
Thank you, and welcome. We are celebrating 100 years this year. Is that amazing? Simon Rovia, 100 years, 1921 to 1954. So we're very lucky in our community to have this wonderful piece of art and to get the attention that we're getting for the work that we do. I want to introduce you to some very important people. We couldn't do what we do without these people. We couldn't provide you with this free entertainment, the creme de la creme entertainment. You know, we don't do mediocre because we don't have to, right? That's Watts. All right. So I want to introduce you to my immediate boss, Daniel Tarika, who, again, provides for us. He stands up for us. He provides for us in the budget, which is very important. He looks after us. So, Daniel, welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rosie Lee. It's so great to be here today, and how wonderful is it that we can be here in person? It has been a long road to get here, and kudos to our Watts Towers Art Center campus staff who have helped over these years. They did a virtual festival last year and lots of virtual programming of footage of past festivals, and we are so grateful for them to be able to be here today to celebrate the centennial anniversary. We've got today we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Watts Towers Day of the Drum Festival, and tomorrow we've got the 45th anniversary of the Simon Rodea Towers Jazz Festival. So these celebratory moments, we really do have to take the time to really mark the moment. And we have to look over at the towers as the creative inspiration for who we are and where we are today. The towers, as you know, were built by Simon Rodea, an Italian immigrant from Serino, Italy, who started building the towers in 1921 here on this site. So the Watts Towers Art Center campus has been providing services for our community artists since 1961 to art classes for youth here on this site. And since then, the Watts Towers Art Center campus has become one of the city's most prominent cultural art centers, with an impressive list of artists and creative talents who have been here and recognized worldwide. So we here at the Watts Towers Art Center campus serve as a beacon for creativity, empowerment, and determination. So we have a great lineup of artists for you here today, and we have so many people that helped us get here today that we want to thank. We want to say thank you to Councilmember Joe Buscaino, the Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks, the State of California, our partner at the Watts Towers, Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust, Annenberg, Grow at Annenberg, our support groups with whom we couldn't do what we do without them, the Friends of the Watts Towers Art Center campus, the parents of the Watts Towers Art Center, the Watts Towers Community Action Council, the Committee for Simon Rodea's Towers in Watts, the Watts Towers Art Center Campus Youth Board. We also want to say thank you to LACMA for all of their support on the restoration and conservation of the towers, and to Assemblymember Mike Gibson for whose support from the state of California is helping to transform this campus. And I also want to give a huge shout out to our team here at the Watts Towers Art Center campus, led by Ms. Rosie Lee Hooks, and all of our team here, who not only do they produce these festivals, they produce programming for our youth and our adults. They do tours at the towers all year long, and they serve as an inspiration and mentors for all of the youth and participants here. So last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank Mayor Garcetti for his steadfast leadership and support for the arts and culture in the city of Los Angeles. The mayor has helped increase the city's profile on the world stage, and that even during the pandemic, he's continued to recognize the value of the arts for our city's economic vitality, as well as a source of healing and belonging across the city. Thank you to the mayor for all the support for the City of LA Department of Cultural Affairs and this Watts Towers Art Center campus, and to your staff who have given us so much. So please join me in welcoming Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Thank you. Give it up for Daniel Tarika and all of the Department of Cultural Affairs, your Department of Cultural Affairs. How you doing, Watts? Raise your hand if you're from Watts. Raise your hand if you love Watts. All right, it should be everybody here. This is such a happy weekend of celebration, 100 years in this amazing, rising, resilient community. And, you know, shortly after I became mayor, I only have 77 days left, but who's counting? 77 days left. It's term limits, it's what happens. We're gonna get a great new mayor, don't worry. We came here because, you know, those photographs that greet people when they come to Los Angeles for the very first time at the airport, or maybe it's somebody returning home to Los Angeles. They said, we need to take pictures. And so we took a couple photographs, but I insisted, I said, I want one of them to be Watts Towers. I want folks to come in and to see and to know what the heart of this city is all about. And over the last 9.5 years, to see Watts rise and rise and rise and rise, not just to mark history like we do every year, but to make history. Not only to realize history, but to write it. Whether it's making sure that this is a green community when all the community members came together to go to the state and to successfully apply for making sure there's things like bikes and more trees for shade, electric cars, community gardens, so that the environmental and green movement wasn't just something we saw in other communities, but that we led right here from Watts. That was this community. And we said we needed more health, and we needed to reimagine what health felt like long before a pandemic. And we saw historic investments in new clinics here. That was Watts Rising. When we said we have a different way of doing public safety, and the Community Safety Partnership, which put police officers not for 2 years, but for 5 years in a community, and said half your time needs to be about building relationships. And we brought former members of gangs. We brought folks who have served time that have returned as citizens to be part of our gang reduction programs. We saw where there used to be sometimes a killing a month, entire years go by in some of our public housing projects without a single homicide. That was Watts Rising. And we saw young people who said, we want to make sure that Watts is as connected as any community. We were able to make historic investments in education too. So Watts is rising. And there's no better symbol of Watts Rise than these towers. I also want to mark that we live through history. And we've seen so many amazing musicians come here for the Jazz Festival, one of whom we lost this morning, Pharaoh Sanders, somebody who John Coltrane said was perhaps the greatest tenor saxophonist ever, and who played on this ground. He lived here in Los Angeles, and I just want to remember him today because as a jazz musician myself, Pharaoh's music is one that has always touched not just those who were fans, but the music community was changed by him as well. As we move through the trauma and the tragedy of the last 3 years, we just want to say we are here. And as Daniel said, it feels really good to be in person, doesn't it? We're not watching something on Zoom. We're not looking at a recording of jazz, a culture, of drum circles somewhere else. It's right here in our community. And I can't stay here till 1 o'clock because I got to pick up a family member a little bit south of here. But I do want to say this publicly about Mike Gibson, our assembly member, because you'll see it at 1 o'clock. But he helped obtain in your budget, I love it when we always say, well, we've got a surplus. All the tax dollars are yours. So he's a good representative who knew in a surplus that we had at the state level, he's bringing $4 million here to renovate and to invest right here in this Cultural and Arts Center. And I want to thank him publicly and his staff publicly. Right there, there she is. You'll see a lot of her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 4 million times thank you as the city steps up to make sure we're matching that. Thank you to LACMA and all the partners too. I love our museums, but I also love our community-based art. And Rosie Lee, you have embodied what that means. And I just want to say publicly while I'm still mayor that this is an angel in the city of angels. Someone who has stood forward and stepped up and in the toughest of times always been there to make sure the community's voice leads from the front, not an afterthought, but from the very beginning. So we love you for that. Thank you. I know you've got better things to do than to listen to mayors drone on. You've got music to listen to, but I just wanted to thank you for the honor of the last 9.5 years. Somebody said, well, you won't even be around. I said, no, I'll be around. I just won't have title as mayor. I'll have a more dangerous title, constituent. So I'm going to be like you, consuming Los Angeles, celebrating Los Angeles, investing in Los Angeles. We love you, Watts, and know that I will be there every step to make sure that Watts continues to rise and that the world knows that Watts is one of the great cultural centers of this planet. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, thank you. And just so he won't forget us, we're going to give him something to put on his walls. Daniel?
That's usually my job.
We'd like to present to you two framed posters. This is a commemorative poster of our 100 years, and this is the festival poster. This poster this year was done by 3 artists. We usually only have 1, but because it's so special this year, we have 3 artists doing this art for our 100 commemorative and the Watts Towers Festivals.
Love it.
Thank you again. Thank you, Mayor, for all you do.
Thank you. Appreciate you.